Spider-Man 4 was meant to be released on May the 4th, 2011 and was meant to star Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst in another installment of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man franchise after a successful first trilogy. However, after some controversy with the script and creative control, the film was ultimately cancelled, and Sam Raimi's fourth installment never came to light. Fortunately, because of the internet, multiple people have pitched their own ideas for what the fourth film would have looked like, including myself, who did a video explaining how I think the fourth film would have been like. I'll leave a link in the description if you'd like to go and check out that video after this one. There is also a studio on YouTube called High Mountain Studios who are currently working on a Spider-Man 4 fan film, and I think what they are doing is really cool and it looks proper legit. But with that being said, none of us on this platform will ever be able to catch the vision of the original Sam Raimi film that was ultimately cancelled. However, could it ever come back? Well, today I'm here to answer your questions, and just like I did with Spectacular Spider-Man, on ways that Spider-Man 4 could actually happen. Now for this list, I'll be going in order of likelihood of the certain scenario happening. Number 5. An actual Spider-Man 4 live-action film. Now this obviously is the most unlikely option out of all of them, but it still holds a chance. Let's say that after Tom Holland's run as Spider-Man ends, after the next 2 appearances he has in the MCU, and Sony get the full rights to the character back, and due to popular demand they bring Sam Raimi along with the cast of the original trilogy back for one last outing. However, this is extremely unlikely for a multitude of reasons. Sam Raimi couldn't originally find a script that he liked, therefore I doubt he has now. Tobey Maguire and most of the cast would be too old to continue the story that they left off in the third film, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man will most likely not end with these next 2 appearances and will most certainly gain another trilogy under his belt, or maybe even more. However, it's cool to theorize. Number 4. An animated Sony Pictures feature. Now this is almost as equally unlikely as the last option, however this one does have some ground to it a little bit. Sony, while they aren't allowed to make a live action Spider-Man movies whilst Tom Holland makes his appearances in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Sony can develop animated movies like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This means that we could see the return of Tobey Maguire and the rest of the cast in an animated Spider-Man 4 film. However, with Into the Spider-Verse and a sequel coming out, the likelihood of them concentrating on a 4th Spider-Man film is highly unlikely. However, having the movie animated would allow them to use the actors' voices and not worrying about de-aging them in the actual live action, etc., allowing them to carry on the story from the end of Spider-Man 3, with not saying that 10 years passed or anything. Number 3. Comic adaptation of the events after Spider-Man 3. This is where we get into the more likely options for this list. Comic adaptations of movies, like novelizations and precursors, are very common when it comes to comic book movies, and Spider-Man is no exception whatsoever. For example, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 got a comic book released before the movie came out to explain how Peter got his new suit, etc. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could get a comic book adaptation of the events after Spider-Man 3, essentially going into detail of where Peter is now and what he has been up to and everything with him and MJ after Harry's death. Although there wouldn't be as much content as there would be for an actual Spider-Man 4 movie, the comic would act as a Spider-Man 4, or at the very least, a Spider-Man 3.5. The comic could even be titled Spider-Man 4. Number 2. A live-action Spider-Verse. Now personally, I think this one is very likely. Although right now a live-action Spider-Verse movie seems so insane and absolutely out of the park, it would make a lot of sense if Sony were to ever make this movie. Combining all live-action Spider-Man into one movie would make a lot of sense, bringing and uniting all fans of the franchises together to one massive payoff, not just to Tobey's Spider-Man, which is where the Spider-Man 4 aspect of this option comes in, but a payoff to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as well, in which he only had 2 movies to shine as well, before his 3rd movie was ultimately cancelled and they opted for Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man inside of the MCU. A live-action Spider-Verse could go into detail of the events after Spider-Man 3 and could follow an older Tobey Maguire Peter Parker and almost give us a quote-unquote Spider-Man 4, where the film follows what he's been up to and maybe even bringing back an older Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. Number 1. Having Tobey's Spider-Man story be included into the Into the Spider-Verse sequel. This is the most likely option, and I will not be surprised in the slightest if we see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, or even Tom, or even Andrew's versions of Spider-Man appear in Into the Spider-Verse sequel. It's a Spider-Verse, which means that Miles, Spectacular, Tobey, Andrew, Tom, all of them exist in the same multiverse, and featuring Tobey in the next Spider-Verse movie will attract so much media and fan attention, which will then obviously be converted into the big bucks for Sony. Peter Parker could continue his story, essentially giving us a fraction of what Spider-Man 4 could have been by featuring Tobey's character and moving forward with him in the sequel, even if it turns out he has only had a cameo in the movie. The downsides to this is that Peter B. Parker's Spider-Man in the first movie was very similar to Tobey's Spider-Man, as he was older, he had Mary Jane problems, and some of the scenes explaining his backstory were literal rip-offs of the Sam Raimi movies. However, it's always possible, and we can always hope. This has been my list of the ways that Spider-Man 4 could potentially happen and ways we can continue Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man story. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, and if you enjoy my content, make sure to hit that subscribe button with that bell turned on so you get notified every time a new video goes out. And with that being said, make sure to follow my socials in the description below for updates, especially Twitter, because I don't really use Instagram that much anymore apart from DMs. But once again, thank you all so much for the support, and at the time of writing this video, we're almost at 5,000 subscribers, so thank you so much. We're so close. Thanks once again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.